Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We are going to completely flip the script today and change the way you think about your free time. We're doing this by decoupling the simple, everyday act of just being alone from the painful stigma of loneliness. It's a huge paradigm shift. We're going to look at the science, the psychology, and the history behind why your brain actually desperately needs you to spend some quality time with yourself.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to really think about this for a second. When was the last time you experienced true, complete silence and solitude? Seriously, think about it. No podcast playing in the background, no television, no notifications buzzing in your pocket, and absolutely no one else in the room demanding your attention. It's pretty rare, right? In our hyper-connected modern world, finding a moment of absolute quiet feels almost impossible. We're just constantly bathed in ambient noise and social expectations. And frankly, that sets the stage for a massive cultural misunderstanding about what it actually means to be alone.
All right, let's get into Section 1, the paradox of being alone.
For decades, society has incorrectly equated being alone with being some kind of outcast. Like, if you're spending a Friday night by yourself, something must be wrong with you. Yet, we are currently facing a massive, very real loneliness epidemic. The U.S. Surgeon General and the World Health Organization have completely sounded the alarm on this, and it's a painful issue for a lot of people. But here's the crazy paradox we're facing today. Because we're so terrified of isolation and loneliness, we pack our schedules and totally overstimulate ourselves. We're terrified of being lonely, yet we are desperately, biologically in need of quiet. We've basically confused the cure with the disease.
To really wrap our heads around this paradox, we need a brand new vocabulary word. Enter aloneliness. This term was coined by Solitude researcher Rob Copeland. And aloneliness is that hyper-specific feeling of being totally overwhelmed and just maxed out by other people. It's literally your body's evolutionary alarm bell going off, signaling that you're hitting social burnout and you desperately need to step away to refill your own cup.
So, the crucial point is, it brings us right to Section 2. Isolation versus intentional solitude. We have to completely debunk the myth that being by yourself is inherently a bad thing. And to do that, we really need to draw a hard line in the sand. The differences between isolation and solitude are stark. Look at it this way. Isolation is involuntary. It happens to you when circumstances completely detach you from your social network, and that leads to feelings of despair, alienation, and even cognitive decline. Solitude, on the other hand, that's a conscious, voluntary choice. It's empowering. As therapeutic research from InspireOn points out, solitude actively nurtures positive emotions like contentment and peace. It gives you the space to process your emotions, totally free from the pressures of external expectations. So intention is everything here. Let's move on to Section 3, your brain on silence. Let's start with the stakes, because they're surprisingly high. A major study led by the University of California, Davis looked at older adults and modeled the impacts of loneliness and isolation. And get this, they found that a mere 10% increase in reports of feeling lonely was associated with an 8 to 9% increased risk of severely impaired cognitive function. That's huge. Loneliness literally degrades the brain, acting as a massive risk factor for cognitive decline and even a shorter lifespan. But what happens when we flip the script entirely and deliberately seek out positive silence?
Clinical neurologist Dr. Shweta Adadia uses a really vivid, brilliant metaphorical framing for this. She calls the noisy state of our minds a spiderweb of thinking. Think about it. When we're constantly surrounded by ambient sounds, those endless phone notifications and the demands of others, our brains are just constantly firing to match those frequencies. We get all tangled up in this little spiderweb of continuous evaluation and rumination, and the only way to break that web? Absolute silence. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer biological reward waiting for you in the quiet. Research from Duke University actually found that just 2 hours of complete silence a day can spark neurogenesis. That is the actual physical growth of new cells in your brain's hippocampus. And why does that matter? Because the hippocampus is the region directly responsible for your memory, your learning, and clear thinking. So yeah, silence literally grows your brain.
Dr. Adadia calls this ultimate state solid solitude. Now, it's not just about putting your phone in another room. It's about achieving mental, emotional, and intellectual silence without evaluating your thoughts. You just sit there and watch your thoughts pass by without attaching an emotion, like anger or anxiety, to them. And here's the wild part. Dr. Adadia notes that achieving this state of profound disconnection can effectively give you 2.5 years of your brain's life back. 2.5 years! Which brings us nicely to Section 4, the 4 types of solitude.
Right now, you might be thinking, okay, that sounds amazing, but I literally cannot just run away to a mountain ashram for 2 hours a day. Fair enough. Thankfully, author and researcher Heather Hansen outlines 4 distinct types of solitude, so you can see just how accessible this truly is for all of us. You've got complete solitude, which is that extreme physical isolation. Then there's private solitude, which is your garden variety quiet night at home in your bedroom. But the next two, that's where things get really fascinating: companionate and public solitude.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how flexible solitude can be. Companionate solitude happens when you're sharing a quiet space with someone you deeply trust. It's like reading a book in the living room while your partner reads on the other couch, totally absorbed in your own worlds but still together. Then you have public solitude. This is the peace you find alone in a crowd. It's that feeling of putting your headphones on during a morning bus commute in a busy city, just staring out the window, totally secure and unbothered in your own psychological space.
All right, let's bring it all together in Section 5, Mastering the Art of Solitude.
So how do we actually put this into practice? Well, we can start with some profound philosophy from Henry David Thoreau's book Walden, which he wrote during his famous experiment in simple living. He wrote that, by a conscious effort of the mind, we can stand aloof and let all things go by us like a torrent. Mastering solitude requires exactly this kind of stoic reframing. You have to actively allow the anxieties and those negative thoughts to just wash past you without letting them pull you under the current. Let's move to and see how this builds into an actionable 3-step process you can literally use today. Step 1. Unplug from what researchers call sneaky infiltrators. This means zero social media, no doom scrolling, no digital noise masquerading as alone time. Step 2. Observe your thoughts without attachment. Basically, don't fight your brain. Just watch the thoughts drift by like clouds. And step 3. Engage your curiosity. Actually, curiosity is the secret weapon of solitude. Whether it's building a model plane, gardening, or taking a walk in nature, leaning into what makes you curious transforms standard isolation into profound restorative fulfillment.
I want to introduce you to a fantastic concept from researcher Eric Julian Manolastes called the date with the self. He challenges us to stop just waiting around for solitude to accidentally happen to us, and instead, to deliberately schedule it. Treat your alone time with the exact same respect and priority you would give to a date with a romantic partner or a super important meeting with your boss. Don't flake on yourself. It is a vital, non-negotiable exercise in maintaining your psychological well-being.
To wrap things up, I want to leave you with one final, kind of provocative thought. When the room goes quiet, do you instinctively reach for your phone, terrified of what you might hear in the silence? Or are you ready to finally sit still, completely unplug, and truly meet yourself? The science is absolutely clear on this. Embracing your own solid solitude isn't just a luxury. It's a biological necessity for building a healthy, creative, and resilient brain. So go ahead, block out some time on your calendar today, and just enjoy the quiet. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I can't wait to explore more fascinating topics with you next time.